It all began in the fall of 1996 when God dropped a seed in the heart of Barbara Wilcox to create a school that would meet the needs of families looking for Christian education in northern Berks County. After seeking direction from God as to who should be involved, a few well-placed phone calls were made to begin the journey. Her vision was confirmed in the first meeting with her pastor, Reverend Sergio Valori, and his wife Lucille, when she explained that God had begun working in their hearts a few weeks earlier concerning the need for a Christian school in the area. The vision began to build from there as meetings with Pastor Marlon Lafferty, Pastor Jim Bauer, Pastor Wayne Rissmiller, and Pastor Carl Fisher all reaped the same response, that God was doing something big and they needed to be involved.
I remember a little over 20 years ago that Barbara Wilcox called me, asked me if I would be interested in being a part of a committee to try to get a Christian school started.
My first recollection would have been meeting with Barbara Wilcox and sharing a desire for Christian education in Berks County.
An early committee of pastors was formed, and the vision of what this Christian school would be began to emerge.
I had no idea what I was getting into, but I said, sounds like a good idea, I'd love to get together. And so I think there were 5 or 6 of us that started meeting together at the church in Mooresville. We met together numerous times there to discuss the possibilities of starting a Christian school. And this was really Barbara Wilcox's dream and idea and vision for it. And so we were encouraged to simply be a part of that and work through all the details of trying to get a school started.
Word began to spread, and those who would later become the steering committee came together in those early days to begin the work. None of them felt equipped with the knowledge necessary to begin a school. They only had the assurance that God was in this endeavor and that He who had begun a good work would be faithful to bring it to completion.
It was crazy because none of us even knew how to start a school. Did we have permission? Were we allowed to? It was before Google. We didn't know anything. We started calling Christian schools on telephones and asking them to send their materials so we could look through it, trying to figure out what made up a school. We'd all attended schools. I was a teacher. We thought we understood schools, but this was completely different. To suddenly be responsible for creating a school.
The next big step was a name. Everyone agreed that this would be God's school, and after several long meetings with even longer lists on whiteboards, the team unanimously agreed that this would be a school of the King, the King's Academy.
There was such a peace that came when that decision was made. And I look at it today and I see it written at places, the King's Academy, and I just think how much that name fits, who we are and what we are about at the start and 20 years later, that we are His school. This is His school.
And so the mission of the school to provide Christ-centered academic excellence and to train leaders in knowledge, wisdom, and godly character was established.
We had meetings, and what I found extraordinary was there was so many people who were interested in Christian education, and that was our commonness. That was our focus. We wanted to establish a Christian school in Berks County for the children of Berks County.
From this point, tasks were divided out, and the beginnings of what would become the board committees naturally emerged as volunteers took on applying for licenses, creating course lists, and looking for a place to house the school.
I was part of the admissions committee at the time, so we interviewed every incoming family, and I would literally sit down with people and say, I don't know where this school will be, I don't know who your child's teacher will be, I don't know what books we'll be using, but would you like to come to our school? And they wanted to come. They wanted to be here. And family after family sat down and told me how they had been praying for years for a Christian school to start here.
As a result, the school opened in a local church in Leesport. A school building and campus followed the next year, and a high school building the year after that.
A church in Leesport had graciously opened their doors to our school, and so it was like a one-room schoolhouse with different little subdivisions going on, so to speak.
Yeah, I kind of look at that as well, what we read in the book of Esther, that it was kind of for such a time as this that I was part of that committee, and the church was also relatively new as far as a new section being built onto the back of the church, that we had classrooms available. It's kind of interesting that I know that, as I said, it wasn't long after we had built on to the back of the church. I heard a rumor from one or two people in the church one day about the marks being on the wall. And I just remember making the announcement one Sunday morning to say, "Have you noticed all the marks on the walls?" I said, "Isn't it neat? God's using his building." I wanted to turn that around and make it a very positive influence that we were a part of something that God was doing.
It was quite an experience. We had a variety of teachers. One girl it was her first year of teaching, and we joked with her. We told her that she could teach through this. She could teach through anything because we just did not have much. We had tables and chairs and our curriculum materials, and that was about it.
In the first year of the King's Academy, we had a music concert. I remember it was a Friday afternoon, and I was making up flyers for the program that evening. The copier, which was just a little portable copier for the King's Academy, stopped working. And we were kind of panicking, and Mrs. Wilcox said, "Let's take a moment." And she laid hands on the copier and prayed over the copier for the copier to work so we could get our programs done. The copier worked. I was amazed because I had never seen somebody pray for an item before, but it worked. The following year, that little copier came to this building with us to use for different programs. One day it broke down about a year later, and a copy guy came in and said, "Ma'am, I don't know how this copier's been working, but this copier doesn't even have parts for it to working. And here it's been working for over a year." I knew then, at that moment, that God created a miracle in a little copier for the King's Academy.
We also made a quilt that year. Each child and teacher was given a quilt square, and we could write our favorite Bible verse on it, or we could draw a picture, just write our names, whatever we wanted to do. And then we turned it back in, and then someone, I don't know who, they sewed it together and they made the beautiful quilt that now hangs in Barbara's office. And once the quilt was made, Barbara told us that it was going to be auctioned off in order for the school to raise money. And we just put up a fuss. We're like, "Barbara, you cannot sell our quilt. You know, it belongs to us. It's a symbol of our first year together." And I'm not quite sure to this day what Barbara did, but that quilt still hangs in her office.
Numerous families mentioned specifically praying for the building, the campus where we are right now. It had been sitting empty, owned by Schuylkill Valley School District, and they kept mentioning, "I've been praying over that school building. I think it's a perfect location for a Christian school." And over again, we kept hearing this.
The building that we have now, we purchased the building. Again, we didn't have much money, but we did everything that we possibly could.
Growth for TKA would continue well beyond the initial vision and mere buildings. In 2005, the international program was established, and the school's impact began to spread around the world. The hard work and dedication of those who blazed the trail has led to the continued commitment to prepare children for life as Christian leaders. Through the faithfulness of God and the generosity of His people, the King's Academy has been able to impact thousands of students from Berks and Schuylkill counties. This history fans the flame of hope, because from what appeared to be nothing, God called into place a school now celebrating 20 years. A lady with a vision and a faithful few latched onto Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. We are fortunate to now be able to celebrate the evidence of God's faithfulness to TKA in the last 2 decades. But we also look forward eagerly to those things not seen that lie before us at the King's Academy.
So it's just exciting to see what God's been doing over the years, and seeing the school continue to grow and mature, and It was just exciting also to see that and recognize that we really need to have young people coming through a Christian environment that can become the leaders, whether it's in the corporate world, whether it's in any kind of public area or even political area, just to have the influence of godly influence of these kids growing up and maturing and become a part of our society today.
You can just see it's in the details year after year, just God's faithfulness to this school and how He has provided.
The quality of Christian education we have here at the King's Academy is amazing, and I think you cannot find a better education in any school in Berks County than you'll find here at the King's Academy.